What is up, everybody? Mr. Purtis here. Welcome to the second part of period 3. First part was on Islam and the rise of the caliphates. This part's on China, which is the Sui, Tang, and Song dynasty. This will not take us all the way through 1450 with China. We got to get the Mongols involved in this, which will come a little later. But we have 3 dynasties here. A lot of similarities with the Islamic caliphate. So kind of pay attention as we go through this and the interaction with people and all that other good stuff. Let's get going here. So first, 3 dynasties. This is the Sui. This is the first dynasty that comes back to reestablish a lot of the old ideas from the Han dynasty. It's short-lived, but what's important about the Sui is that they really bring back a lot of the stuff from the classical period, from the Han dynasty, that we're going to see reemerge and continue on until really the 1900s in China. We also have the Tang dynasty right here and the Song dynasty as well. You'll notice the Tang really is the most expansive. The Tang has a huge, significant number of accomplishments, so we'll kind of get into some of that. But really the key to this is after 300 years of fighting, from the time the Han dynasty falls in the 200s through the 500s, we're finally bringing everything back. Everything's coming back from these earlier time periods to reestablish themselves in China. And when I say reestablish themselves, what do I mean? First is politically. So we have a couple things that politically are going to go on that are hugely important that we kind of, from last year's Global 1 or AP9 class that you learned about, are part of Chinese culture. So first is we're going to reestablish bureaucracy based on Confucianism. So we're going to bring back this bureaucracy, this idea of civil service exams, of entering government, of breaking down government. So you really can't just have one person ruling over, coming back to this huge empire. You have to break it down into pieces and have people who are loyal back to the emperor. So within the Tang dynasty, they have 3 departments and 6 ministries. So each department is responsible for something specifically. So for example, whether it's policy making or execution of policies or evaluating the policies, and then you have these ministries, whether it's justice, construction, rights, who oversee a specific function. Each of these ministries would report back to the departments, who would in turn report back to the emperors. And even underneath these ministries, you have 24 boards who actually oversee projects throughout the empire. So this is a kind of a logical way to keep power centralized in the hands of the emperor, but break it down so people can go out and enforce and implement the emperor's policies. Also, we still do have the dynastic cycle, the mandate of heaven, where as long as things are good, people support that emperor and the gods look favorably upon the emperor to rule. Also, these things, all of this gives legitimacy, makes it legit that people buy into the emperor and buy into what the emperor is doing, because the emperor is providing public works for people, the emperor is providing services that the people need, so therefore it all comes back and people say, yay, we want this emperor to rule, and that's part of the mandate of heaven, as opposed to when things go bad and they're like, boo, we don't like you anymore, and they overthrow the emperor. Also, there's one thing that we really didn't talk about the Han dynasty, but the Sui, Tang, and the Song are going to perfect, so we're kind of bringing it up here, is this idea of tributary states. And if you've ever watched The Hunger Games, you know the tributes. And we are talking about enslaving, is it 3 fingers? 2? Anyway, we're talking about this idea that areas, so this right here, let's use this as an example. This is the Tang Empire in the yellow, and in kind of the greenish yellow color are the tributary states. So each of these areas, whether it's Korea up here or Southeast Asia down here, specifically what's eventually going to become known as Vietnam, they are going to send money or enslave people to the Tang dynasty. And in return, the Tang dynasty says, we won't invade you. So you send us tribute, money, or enslave people, and in return, we won't do anything to harm you. And when you came, so for example, if you are from the people from Vietnam down here, your leader or representatives of your leader would come to the capital of the Tang dynasty and would kowtow or kneel down and bow to the emperor to show submission as you're giving your money or enslaved people. So this is a way to expand your power without having to control these areas, because you know they are going to be respectful towards you until you start losing power, and then they might rise up and rebel, but that's another story for another day. Also, we have under the Sui and the Tang, we're going to see the building of a canal called the Grand Canal in China. So 2 things that they're going to do. One, they actually expand the Great Wall of China, which is up here, which is supposed to protect from nomadic invaders. The other thing to do is we build a canal, and if you kind of follow along right here, you can see the canal, which is actually going to link the capital, Chang'an, with the rivers right here, which connect it to the south. So in the southern part of China, we have a lot of rice grown. It's really the food production center of China, and it will be really to this day, where this area is great for cultivating food, specifically rice. And this is kind of our, I don't want to say more urban area, I guess is a good way of saying it. So we're going to have the goods that are down here can be shipped north and vice versa down to the south. And this is the canal. It still exists today. This is built back in the 600s and 700s, and it still is partially in use today. I mean, obviously they've had to make improvements on it, but this is what it looks like today. And it links 1,240 miles, links the north and the south. Crazy for this time period. But as well as just a reminder, the Great Wall of China, which is up here in the north. So kind of one of the keys to this is culturally, during this period of 500 years where things are bad in China, we see Buddhism really kind of enter and spread into the Sui and the Tang dynasty, especially during the Tang. Kind of follow this logical thought. So Buddhism spreads, it gets popular, people like it, and people start converting to it. If you are a Confucian scholar and you work for the government, you don't like it. It makes you angry. You are basically losing your power as a result of this Buddhist entrance into your country. So what do? If you're a Confucian scholar? You have the ear of the emperor. You start telling the emperor, Buddhism is bad, we can't trust Buddhism, all these not so good things. Eventually, over time, over a 100-year period, 200-year period, the Confucian scholars kind of went out, and the scariness of Buddhism, the emperor decides to burn the monasteries down, ban Buddhism. So, and as a result of this, you need to bring things back again and reestablish your order. So the Confucian scholars come up with a new version of Confucianism called Neo-Confucianism. And if you don't know this term neo just means new, like Neolithic revolution. But when you bring back Confucianism again, you're not going to bring back just the old way. You're going to make it harsher. You're going to crack down on things. You're going to make it stricter than it was. And one thing we're going to see is this patriarchal society under Neo-Confucianism is going to expand. And I apologize for the graphic pictures that just surprised you, but one thing that a lot of people in the class wrote about in the Han Dynasty, which wasn't true, is about footbinding. Footbinding doesn't start until this time period, really under the Tang Dynasty. And it really doesn't emerge fully until the Song Dynasty around 1100, but it's part of this Neo-Confucianism where we're going to bind women's feet. We're going to take their feet, we're going to wrap it under, break their toes, and allow it to grow this way. And it's a way to keep women or wives close to their husbands so they don't, quote unquote, stray or cheat on them. So with this patriarchy, there's also, and this Neo-Confucianism, we're going to see the patriarchal system intensify significantly where, for example, you get these quotes from Neo-Confucianists: disorder is not sent down by heaven, it is produced by women. Disorder. Women's greatest duty is to produce a son. And then a woman should not look down on, or should look on her husband as if he were heaven itself, and never weary of thinking how she may yield to him. That's pretty significant in terms of the home and showing you what the women's role is. Also, socially, we're going to see an increased urbanization. This is the capital of Chang'an. Many people are going to come, especially during the Tang Dynasty. They are going to come and trade with merchant activity in this region. Hugely successful city. Two things just I want to point out that are going to come up later. One, cultural context with Japan. A lot of ideas are going to spread via Korea up here into Japan. So we're going to see cultural context between Chinese dynasties and Japan. Also, there are the Muslim attacks up here in the northern part of China. So we do see this connection between Islam and China, and some ideas are going to spread. In China, especially, we're going to see a huge rise in population between 800 and 1300. If you look here on our chart, this is right around 800 here, and look over here to 1300. Look at this huge spike. China's going to see a huge increase in population. There's a whole lot of reasons, including better climate, just better food production, the sharing of ideas, and less invasions. So we see this huge increase in population, which is generally pretty good, well, until the Mongols come along and they start killing people. But another story for another day. Also, the Tang is going to invade Vietnam, and this is going to lead to increase in food production because when they invade Vietnam, they realize that there's a new type of rice that they can cultivate, and it's called champa rice. And this rice you can cultivate 2 to 3 times a season. So we think mostly in terms of our own crops today. Once a season, you grow it, you cut it down, and that's it. This is 2 to 3 times a season. More food, happy people, more people, if that makes sense. Lastly, and really kind of the key to a lot of this is economically, we're going to see an increase in trade and wealth from luxury goods. What that means is the Tang and the Song Dynasty are going to expand trade significantly, much more than what we saw under the Han Dynasty. And in order to expand trade, one thing they're going to do is they're going to standardize production of porcelain. And to standardize something means the government is going to say there's an official quality to this product. and you can't sell it if it doesn't meet our quality standards. This leads to more trade because people know that when you buy porcelain, aka the fancy china that you have at home, it's going to be higher quality. Also, even though during this period the Tang and the Song lose their monopoly on silk because the idea silkworms spread to the Byzantine Empire, they're snuck out secretly, the empire is going to directly oversee its production, which means a higher quality product. And this is what we're looking at with silk. So more people coming into trade because they know the products are better. And last but not least, in order to encourage this trade, the Chinese are going to invent something called flying money, basically almost like paper money. So you are a merchant. Instead of walking around with big bags of coins, which are heavy and can easily be stolen, you now can get a piece of paper that says you are owed, I don't know, 100 coins. So you don't need to carry this big coin around anymore. You carry a piece of paper, which is safer, and it's made on this. This is kind of the print for it. And this is what it actually looks like. This idea of paper money or flying money in China is going to spread to the Abbasid Caliphate along with paper making skills. So that, remember, Islam is invading China, but they're also trading. So these ideas are going to spread, and we're going to have this expand into the Abbasid Caliphate. This makes it so much easier to trade. You can't carry around lots of money. Now you have this piece of paper. It's easier. You can exchange the paper at the next trade center, get your coins, do your trading, get another piece of paper that says the new amount that you have, and move on. This idea of flying money and of paper making skills is eventually going to spread to Western Europe by the 1300s, which is going to allow Western Europe to trade and expand. Huge. And we're going to see a lot of transfer of Chinese goods into these regions. So here's the deal. That's what we got with China. That's where we are. Keep in mind a lot of connections between China and the caliphates, which we'll kind of get into in class, and the expansion of these ideas. So that's what I got. Hope you had a good time.